Good day to you, partner. I'm Keen, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. We have a doozy of a video, and I hope I'm going to do it as well as I can. This is actually my second time recording this because I'm having a pretty tough time trying to get all the information as accurate and as concise as possible. Mainly, I just had accuracy issues, but we're going to give it another go. Now, we are doing the mobs from their native area compared to a mob revived from a map. This has been something on our radar for seasons now because it seems like revives from maps get the mods of the map. So we're starting out real simply. We get a Moonlord from Glacial Trail, 54 skill points in the revive, 100k dummy, let it swing. Now we go into Phlegtron, a white map, get a Moonlord, see what his DPS is. Now, if you're wondering what the background is, I was helping my dad's band record some practice demos, and that's the bass player. Two birds, one stone. One of the interesting things right here about this Moonlord is this Moonlord does not have the elemental damage swing. This was confirmed by Renato. So, what does that mean? Well, first you have to look at how maps were designed. By the way, in this one, you can clearly see that the Moonlord has poison damage. So, as of now, it's a fact that map mobs can gain some, if not all, of a map's rolls. Now, how maps are designed is think of them like the guest mobs in Act 5, which were implemented in 1.09, one of the best patches in the game, which took Act 5, a very boring act with a lot of shitty enemies like enslaved, death brawlers, just really not willing to, well, not dangerous enemies, many of them. And then put in some of the worst enemies from Act 1 to Act 4, like a palette swap, sometimes having completely different resistances, life, damage, or maybe even abilities. So the Moonlord from Phlegtron does not have access to the elemental damage attack. I don't know when that was removed. It could have been removed from Phlegtron's initial launch way back when it was a Tier 2 map in Season 1, or it could have been removed at some point down the line, or it could just be unintended. But they clearly don't have that, which is one of the reasons why they're doing less damage. Okay, one of the other things to think about is when I'm rolling a map that has open wounds and +1 area level, it might do more damage. Now, open wounds does not working on the dummies, as in we don't see the visual indication of the dummy having open wounds. That might be a visual glitch, or it could just be that this is a mod that the revive is not getting. See, I'm sorry, there's like a lot of things to cover. Some things I'm not sure about, Renato's not sure about. He said it should work fine, open wounds. So if open wounds should work fine, then it means the map mob is not getting open wounds, or it's not appearing visually, because this game has visual issues just all the time. But the problem is the DPS doesn't quite check out. Now, the last thing about the DPS is unfortunately the DPS is not that consistent. Now, how are we going to test that? Well, I'm going to be doing a couple of tests between max desecrate synergy and not max desecrate synergy. And that should generally be a pretty consistent value, like 20%. Unfortunately, that value ranges from 16% to 19% to 22%. So let's say if 20% is what it should run, then basically we're getting a plus to -4 error, and it could even be larger than that. So basically all of these numbers take with plus to -4%. And that's basically because the AI idle can happen longer at some points, or maybe the revive won't choose to use a frenzy for longer, right, and get that increased attack speed bonus and just use the normal attack, not double swing, etc., 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 or just a base monster crit of 5% can happen. Here we're getting lightning damage, and one of the things I want to touch on real quickly, which is kind of how maps were designed, and when I'm talking about why some of the numbers seem low. Remember that +1 area level open wound map? Well, right after that was a map with magic damage open wounds, which really had pretty unimpressive numbers. So what does that mean to me? Magic damage isn't going to be that great on a dummy because again they have just zero resistances to all of them, so it's going to be a little deflated, a little devalued. Like for a player, magic damage is awful, right? And then for a mob, it's a little less unimportant if they have bad resistances, like this 0% 100k dummy. So it could just be that. Or it could be again that the open wound wasn't working. The magic damage probably is working if we know that lightning damage and poison damage works, and then it could be that maybe the tier of the map matters. Now, how do I have evidence for that? For one, there seems to be some indication that tier 4 revives are more powerful / tankier than any other revive. Canite has repeatedly said that any corpse, okay, because corpses are different than actual mobs that are alive and taking actions. It's a game, okay, so it just has these flags, codes, values, etc., pointers, whatever. He says a corpse at that point is something completely different. It has none of the unique things a map would have to it. It seems like maybe that's not the case because the T1 Moonlord might be affected by the 25% nerfs to T1's damage and health, and then it seems like the T2 Sanatorium Deathlord might only have that 10% nerf. Now, why do I suggest that? Well, that's because remember how the Moonlord had more DPS when gotten from Glacial Trail? Well, the Deathlord had way more DPS when gotten from Sanatorium. Now, again, it does seem like the Deathlord from Worldstone Keep 2 and Sanatorium has their elemental proc damage intact, while the Phlegtron one didn't. I know, I'm sorry, it's very hard to go back and forth on this, but just deal with it and try to get as much information as you can. Here's one of the biggest things to take away from this this video. Crushing Blow is broken, and yeah, if you have a map that rolled Crushing Blow and you get a revive from that map, it has Crushing Blow. So what does that mean? That revives one of the best damage dealers in the game. Just facts. So this last part of the video, I want to touch on a couple of final things. Okay, I'm going to be opening up, or Renato's going to be opening up his Discord with the dummy packs to anybody who'd like to have them to do their own test. Now, this is not scientific. Why? Lower Kurast is a corruption zone for this recording. I didn't notice it until I was done, and then I realized, oh shit. It can't be that way. When you do the dummy pack, okay, you go to Lower Kurast because it has to be this specific M level zone. And I'm assuming a corruption zone would impact that. So actually this 500k dummy actually has more like 600k health or 700k health. Something like that. But I just wanted to see if there was a big swing in the revive damage with Desecrate synergy, right, on a really fat T2 with really good elemental damage mods. By the way, one more quick thing. IAS doesn't seem to be much of a buff to revives, just like it's not that much of a buff to mobs. Just because as a player it really sucks when a mob attacks 1 frame quicker, it doesn't mean it's doing actually that much more damage. And I think that's because the random chance a mob gets its attack off with IAS increases, but its actual frame data doesn't increase much. That's how I'm describing it to myself. And this last thing is this. If the Desecrate synergy is 20%, which isn't that big of a deal, but your revives are doing ridiculous amounts of damage, more than any of your other summons, is Desecrate a good idea as a synergy? On a lot of builds, no. On a day 1 tier 2 farmer of Sanatorium, yes. You max Desecrate and you get the Deathlords. On a tier 4 on a T4 summoner, possibly. And in general, mages, mastery, revives, curses, then dump, Desecrate. Skelly King out, GG.
Come play with us, Daddy. Forever